What's up, guys? Welcome back to Unemployable in 2025. In today's Friday session, we had a really wide-ranging discussion. We talked about what is Christmas like for all of us, some mixed reviews of how we all approach Christmas, what we go through. Then we talked about Toni, who was on the pod today. Toni's net worth around property, or his property portfolio, more accurately described, is about to reach $8 million at the age of 33. So we unpack, how did he actually do that as a young person, accumulate a property portfolio of that size? We then talked about some really cool stuff that Toni studied over the break about leadership and how to sort of protect yourself and your family and be a leader and grow and make money at scale. And then we did a bit of a hard right turn and we talked about AI, not from a business sense, but about the impact AI combined with robotics is going to have on the world. And it was a really, really interesting discussion that I think you're going to get a lot out of. With that said, dive in, stick around to the end, because this pod just sort of builds and builds and it gets really, really, really strong all the way through. So I look forward to hearing your comments below, and bye for now. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Unemployable 2025. And we are starting the year a little bit, what's the word? Weakened workforce with Eric's been sick. He's been up in Canada and he's still got that cough. The whole family got weak.
He said he was going to be good by this week. He lied.
He showed off his tough guy hockey skills on skating around the rink, and he's come back like a little wimp.
In his extra small ice skates.
Yeah, they were quite petite, weren't they?
All right, enough dumping on our friend who's not here. Eric, we hope you're all getting better. They got the influenza A, which is a serious bout. So we hope that you're all getting well. But to kick off, we got, of course, James here. Welcome back to 2025.
Well, it could be here.
See the memo with the light blue shirt?
We certainly did. Yours looks a little bit more snazzy than mine, though. But anyway, I got up my blue shirt game.
Well, mine was bought in the last 10 years. That thing looks like it's been through the wash about a million times.
Oh, well, you get that. Then you've got
I don't know what this is, beige or something like that. I don't know. I missed the memo. I didn't realize we had a dress code for today.
Well, mate, a big congratulations to you, Toni. New baby. Tell us about it.
15 days old, home birth. So I don't know how graphic you want me to get.
No, that's enough.
It was intense. And yeah, and it's crazy how the second child for me now, the first time around, all I did was work. Now I'm working, but I have that balance. And I want to talk about it a bit later, just the detachment and running a business and making money while also having a personal life. Pretty exciting, pretty cool.
So you've got two children now, both
two
girls?
that I know of, yeah.
Two that I know of, two that are yours?
Girls. Yeah. So 3.5-year-old daughter and then the 15-day-old. So
lovely.
Yeah.
Is that, you going to pull up there or are you going to give it
I want as many as possible. And it's so funny, right? During the birth, Rosie, my wife, she's like, I'm never doing this again. And then a few days ago, she's holding the new one, whatever her name is. We haven't decided. And she goes, I don't know if I'm done. And I was like, yes. So I said, can we make another one now? She said, no.
Just practice.
Too soon.
Yeah, apparently there's rules and stuff. So.
Wow. Good
Well,
stuff.
congratulations, mate.
Thank you so much.
You're doing your bit for keeping the planet growing, which is, we very much appreciate that.
Yes.
That's awesome. So how was Christmas for you guys? Like, James, what was your take on Christmas? This guy's been busy popping out babies. I want to talk about this because for a lot of entrepreneurs, Christmas can be a tough time of year. The whole period of Christmas, New Year, there's this huge momentum of energy pent up.
Yeah, well, I've got my take. I went on a 8-day cruise before Christmas. I was nice and chill when I got back. I was like, okay, we'll just coast through Christmas. And, I grew up in a family where Christmas wasn't the be-all and end-all. It was like, obviously, when you're 2 and 3 and then it was done, it was just like a pretty low-key event. Keep it nice and simple, but then with a partner, it was fucking chaos, and I absolutely have this massive disdain against Christmas. I'll give you an example, Adam. If you and your wife came over to my place, you'd bring a bottle of wine. I'd cook dinner. We'd have a bottle of wine. You'd go home, be all cool. I don't see the need to bring over 4 truckloads of food, fucking 19 cases of fucking drink that's not going to get drunk and just turn into fat fucks for the whole time, and also the chaos leading up to it. It drives me fucking nuts. And then the cars, I'm getting prawns the day before. I said, babe, you want to go get prawns? You can stand that fucking line of 4 kilometers. It's entirely up to you, but I'll eat prawns 2 days later. I don't give a shit. And I said to her straight out of the gate, for any relationship, don't buy me a card, don't buy me a fucking present because you're not getting anything at all from me. So this year I bought not one present, I received not one present, and I felt absolutely fine. So sorry for those Christmas lovers out there. I'm not one of them. You can have it next year, but I'm taking it off. I'm going away.
Yes.
So that's my little rant. Wow, I got red in the face about that as well.
You seem calmer now, though. You seem like
I've just got it off my chest.
I love it.
But you had a little bit of downtime too for yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I did.
How was
so
that?
that was the joking side of Christmas. But no, it was good. Although I had a bit of downtime, but I've been tinkering away, building a couple of little bits and pieces, some bits of technology and whatnot during the break. So which will be rolling out as we speak. So it wasn't a complete off the key scenario. I was only talking to a mate of mine. We're back in business and we're talking away, and I thought, fuck, I nearly forgot how to type. Over that period, it just from
much needed breaks.
Yeah. So just unplugged, did a lot of walks, gym. Probably ate a little bit too much, had a few too many drinks, but nothing out of too crazy. So yeah, but that was my Christmas period. I'm glad it's over. I'm just actually at the point. I had people come stay, for a week here, a couple of days here, a couple of days there, then there's this, then there's that, and I'm just peopled out. I just want to get back to just routine every day, just back to my own. As I'm getting older, I like to what I worked out is, get a stay in routine, and not get too
swept up.
Yeah.
I think that's Christmas for a lot of entrepreneurs. It's such a jarring time, I think.
Yeah.
I love seeing the Christmas trees in the shopping malls, and I love the energy of that peace and love and all the good values that come along with the idea of Christmas and family and all that. I love the idea of it. But for some reason, I think I'm like, I don't know, messed up. Every year and I mean that not jokingly, I really struggle with that family time, and I struggle with that. I don't know, just. And it's just time of reflection. I've been like, I don't really settle at Christmas. I get kind of unsettled, and I haven't really figured out why. But one thing I did do was I did some reading some books. I read 2 great books. One of them, I reread The Bitcoin Standard, but the other one was The Courage to Be Disliked, which was a fantastic discovery of a book. So if you haven't read that, it's a phenomenal book about Adlerian psychology. And I know that sounds boring, but it's actually not. It's a fascinating book. And interestingly, Patrick David read it over the break as well and was raving on about it. So book recommendation for you. The other thing I did was a lot of cleaning up and minimizing. I'm kind of an anti-shopper. So I get the same kick that a lot of people get from buying stuff, from getting rid of stuff. And so I did a lot of cleaning up. Obviously, moving overseas in March, I've got a goal that I'm working towards, but it was a really wonderful time to do that. But for me, I just wanted to mention that to a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are hard-charging A-type personalities that are pursuing a goal. It's okay to feel a bit weird at Christmas, and that time between Christmas and New Year where you see everybody. I watched all the people playing beach cricket out the front with their 2.5 kids, and they're,
yeah,
you know what I mean by 2.5, just the standard Australian family. And sometimes I look at it from the outside and I go, well, that ain't going to happen. And, it's kind of an interesting thing to watch. It'll happen maybe for you, but there's a lot of people that it's a challenging time. But yeah.
I got something I want to share around that, because in our industry, we help guys whose marriages are falling apart. They work too much. They're stressed. And Christmas can expose you, right? Because you're forced to take time off. No one else is working. So you, by proxy, take time off because you can't serve your customers or clients. So you're at home with your partner, your husband, your wife, your kids, and now you've got to have those conversations that don't happen during the day. They happen in the evenings. Then your kids are screaming, or you're dealing with these problems or stresses you don't normally navigate throughout the day. Now, some people, they thrive off that, and other people, they are completely exposed, and that's when the arguments happen. That's when the disconnection happens, and that's when you feel, for a lot of guys and women, empty and alone. And you're like, fuck, I've got everything. I've got a house, I've got the car, I've got all the things I want. Why am I unhappy? And then you go back to work and there's 2 camps. There's the camp like you and I, and probably you as well, where you want to go back to routine. You want to go and dominate the air and crush it in business. But I guarantee some listeners at home are like, fuck, I don't want to go back to work. Can I do another year of this? And I had that thought. I started back at work last week after 2 weeks off, first 2-week stint in years. And I had this thought 2 days in, fuck, can I do this for another year? Like, can I deal with this bullshit and this drama for another year? And I listened to that thought and went, of course I can. But a couple of years ago, I was like, I don't know if I can.
It's really in those times, I think personal development saves you, right? Like if you take out personal development and listening to growth, and that if I didn't have that in my life, like I would be really lost.
Even that, like during the breaks, I said I do the morning walk from my place at Burleigh up to North Burleigh, go to the gym and whatnot. I pulled out just to rehash some of the old ones, like Think and Grow Rich again, just to get back in the click again. It was just like, this is refreshing. I'm just going through some of those old books again and just having that me time and where you get to think freely and just sit there and take a few emails on the way when you're walking back. It's good. Yeah, definitely good to have.
Yeah. One gift I got at Christmas, which I wanted to recommend to people, is this thing here. It's called a Remarkable. We were talking about it off camera, but a friend of mine who runs a really decent business gave it to me and said, look, it's a really basic digital device, no notifications, no apps. It just does one thing, which it feels like writing on paper, pretty close to it. And it's a digital notebook that's endless. It's the last notebook you'll ever need. It syncs with the cloud. I'd encourage you guys, if you're interested in having a look at this, and it's got me back to journaling and emptying my head onto paper, which has been really good for my mental health, and just, not having any distractions. Is really looking regularly at where I'm going and what I'm doing and being able to manipulate the writing on the screen or even convert it to digital. Anyhow, I don't want to make the pot about it, but go to YouTube and put in Remarkable device, and digital notebook device, and watch some reviews. And if you think it'd be something that you'd like, when I got given it, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to use this in my head. And I thought, you know what, this guy spent all this money to give it to me. I'm going to give it a run. And now I just absolutely love it. So I'd recommend it. So moving forward from that, let's jump in with you, because over the break, one thing that happened with Unemployable was quite a few of our clips are starting to go viral on Unemployable YouTube and Unemployable Instagram, especially around cost of living, especially around real estate. And whenever we say things are hard and property prices are high, people go, yeah, that's right. And then they share the content, they comment on it, which is great. But we also don't want to sort of get into the situation where we're sort of killing hope for people going forward. Yeah. Like one of the clips that went viral, as I said, Australians have to start working together to get into real estate, or looking at markets outside of the big cities, so that they just get in the game and they've got their cash and the bank's money working with yours. Just get in the game. Even if you're in it with someone else, at least your property's exposed to the growth with leverage. But you've got an interesting story, Toni. And so to frame this up, your portfolio of real estate's about to hit $8 million.
Yep.
How old are you?
33.
33. Okay. And when did you start buying property?
5 or 6 years ago.
5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. So you're not an old guy like me. I bought my first property 25, 30 years ago, something like that, 25 years ago. So you've only been at this for 5 years. So tell the audience what you've learned. Now, I know some of you are going, so did you start before COVID? There it is. I'm out.
Well, so a lot of people will have excuses. So the first thing is this, that there will be some percentage of listeners who go into an instant victim mentality and go, you're part of the reason property prices are going up and it's not fair and I can't afford it in COVID. And if you're one of those people, no judgment, but you're going to really struggle to get what you want from life. That's just a fact. So it's not easy, but it is simple. We started about 5-6 years ago. We were very fortunate. We had a loan from my grandparents and parents of about $100,000, and we saved $100,000. My wife and I were saving $1,500 a week. Took us a year and a half. So we found a buyer's agency, and that buyer's agency helped us purchase our first 3 properties in a year. We put in about $200,000. First property was $360,000. Second was $420,000. Third was $415,000. Now, you can still find properties for that price range in the areas that you probably don't know about. So not in Sydney or the Gold Coast, but there are areas, they exist. Those properties sat there for 3 years, did nothing except go up in value.
Were they houses or units?
Always houses. We always bought houses for the land, and also we were trying to go for capital growth and also yield. So we got high yield and high capital growth.
And what areas?
So we bought in Adelaide, we bought in Rockhampton, we bought in Townsville.
Perfect.
Right? The Townsville one, for example, had a 9% yield. Like the rent was insane. The Adelaide one went up 20% in the first year, 18% in the second year, 17% in the third year. So these are some massive gains, right? Now, then what we did was we took the equity from those properties. We save about 50 to 70% of all of our income. We save it all for investing, almost all of it. So we use the equity plus our savings to buy 3 more this year. And then we bought a 4th. So in 2024, we bought 4 more. We went up to 7. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take as much equity as possible, probably $1 million of equity, and we're going to buy 3 to 4 more. So currently we have $6.2 million of property. We're going to go up to 8.5. Now people will say, well, how do you pay off the debt and the mortgage and all that sort of stuff? Most of our debt is paid off by the rent. And we have to put in about 50 grand a year to offset the interest rates. Now, let me just tie this together for the person listening at home. If you can put together 50 to 70 grand, which is $1,000 a week, $500 each if you're in a relationship, you can buy your first property. You need to know where to find it, and that's another conversation. If you find in the right place and that property goes up 10%, right, in that year, or 15% if you find a better place, year 2, you have to come up with half the deposit. So year 1, let's say you need 60 grand. Year 2, you need 30 grand because you take the equity from property number 1. So now you only need to save 30 grand. Yes, year 2, both those properties go up. You buy your third property just with equity. So now the hardest part is the first 2 properties. And that's what was the case for us. It took me 27 years to buy the first property. It took me another 4 years or 5 years to buy the next 3, and now we're going to buy 4 a year. So this is this exponential curve.
Yeah, and I'll chime in there as well because I read the comments on some of the posts we've done there, and I can nearly guarantee everyone that has those negative comments has not done one education program at all. They're sitting there, they're watching mainstream dog shit news media. There's plenty of like I sat in on Dip the Boholtz. They had like an annual prize, whatever, graduation sort of thing. They're not all $1 million properties. They're not all on their own. They're joint ventures. They're not all Sydney or Brisbane. They aren't towns or Rockhampton. There's chunk deals. There's cash flow deals. There's a way to put the thing together so you don't have and also this whole JV corner as well, where you don't need all your own cash to go and do it. So again, just to reiterate to the people listening out there, it's the people that are sitting there bitching and slinging mud, usually the people who are the most uneducated. So, as I think there's not only the way you're doing things, as you said, you're in a fairly fortunate position, got a great business, got great cash flow. That's all cool. Some people don't have that, but there's a lot of people out there that have cash flow. They don't have time either. And so, getting around, it comes back to that old education piece yet again. So
there's always an excuse though. And you just alluded to the fact that there's also always a solution, right?
Yeah.
Adam?
Yeah, well, it's I think the few things there, being able to save 70% of your income, most people listening to this are going to be going, what the fuck? How much income do you make?
Of course.
Because most people can't save 7% of their income at the moment because of the cost of living. So the other secret in that is that you've built a business.
Yes.
And that business is an 8-figure business.
Well, can I speak to this?
Yes.
Yeah. So our business did about $4.5 million last financial calendar year. But this is something I didn't realize, and this is something valuable for any business owner. Because I'm the sole director of my business, I was paying Rosie and I minimum wage for 3 or 4 years. Like, we were not getting paid a lot. We were living under our means. And then what I found out was the business income gets combined with our personal income because I'm the sole director. So if I pay Rosie and I 100 grand between us, that's 100 grand of income, but the business makes 300 grand profit. That means collectively we have $400,000 of income. And now we can borrow based off of that. So our borrowing capacity was way higher than our actual personal income. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that allowed us to really skyrocket. So if you're a sole director or a business owner, that's an option as well.
I'm thinking about people though that are, I got a comment from a nurse in one of the things, and it was something, I think one of the videos is about inflation and keeping up with the cost of inflation. And she goes, I'm a nurse. Like, her opportunities for income growth are minimal,
of course.
And they're the people that I'm worried about, because people like you can go and make money. People like B, people like James, we can sit down as entrepreneurs and go out and live by our wits, but we need nurses.
Yes.
We need school teachers. We need doctors. But the reality is for many of them, and doctors might be a little bit different because they might get paid more. So I think for these people, it's really hard because, we've got to find ways, and it may be living in ways that we're not used to as in this country. Like when things weren't as expensive, there's real sacrifices that we, these people sadly may have to make to do some of this stuff, like living with parents longer. And I know people are going to rip me to shreds saying, yeah, you didn't have to live with parents. I'm just trying to help. And I'm just trying to be realistic. Like, I really think there is ways to do it, but it is going to be hard.
And another one of the comments, and we're not all going to live like that, but one of the comments was like a lot of the foreigners that come to this country do. They all live together. They pool their cash. Indians specifically, that was in the comments. So I'm not sort of being racist here whatsoever. That was one of the comments, and that's how they do generate a property portfolio very rapidly, was they pull everything together and work as a community, if you will, based around their outcomes and goals.
Adam, I believe you're right. It is very difficult for so many Australians, and I empathize with you, and I've been there. 3.5 years ago, when we moved to the Gold Coast, I was about to go bankrupt. I didn't know if I was going to provide for my daughter. I know that feeling of just fear and uncertainty of how do I get ahead, but you can do so much in 3.5 years. And it's like Tony Robbins says, there's focus. You can either focus on what you do have or what you don't have, and you can focus on how it's not possible or how it is possible. And it is 100% possible for a low-income worker or a nurse to find a way to get ahead. Now, I don't know the exact path right now, but it is possible. And if you can redirect your energy to, well, how is it possible? Do I pool with someone? Do I live with my parents?
One thing that jumps to mind to me is like we had Brooke in the podcast that came out on Tuesday, just gone. It's a second appearance on here. And Brooke teaches women how to become remote salespeople. And it is very possible to learn that skill and then work for an American-based or European-based company as a closer and get home from your job and do 3 hours of sales calls from 7 till 10 at night. Now, I know it's hard and it's difficult, but that's what entrepreneurs do, right? Like, so I think entrepreneurs that's normal for years at a time. So I just want to offer a word of encouragement to the people out there that are not necessarily full-fledged entrepreneurs like you, or like me, or like you, James, but those people who have a 9 to 5 it's meaningful work and it's rewarding in other ways. But if you do want to get on that property treadmill, what Toni is saying here, I honestly believe is right, that we must nurture our minds, remain open, and look for answers to questions. You wouldn't be the first person who's taken up a side hustle for the sole reason of accelerating.
And to that point, I actually had a call with one of Brooke's team, because the lady I'm speaking about, she's actually a ER nurse. She has quite a different bent to her. She gets paid significantly more than most nurses because she works on movie sets and all that sort of stuff like that. But I said, just let's have a call and see. And the person we actually spoke to was a former nurse. He said, we have a lot of nurses in this program. So, I mean, there you go. I know it's an example. We're sort of cherry picking with the nurses, but we spoke to a nurse. She says we enroll a lot of nurses because nursing's hard, nursing's around the clock, nursing's this, nursing's whatever. So, I mean, and also I was just listening to Alex on Mosey on the way up about his view on goal setting. And he goes, this fucking 12-month goal setting thing's bullshit. Like anything worthwhile, it's 3 to 5. Like, and put that, and he's saying, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Like, get a bit more specific with it. I mean, we talk about goal setting and probably another topic, but he said, and also about the, how much value you put on, you can put down 15 different goals, but which one's really going to move the needle, the one you want the most to move right now? Because most people that put down goals, I've done it myself, the same goal every year after year after year. So that means fuck all, so stop putting it down, because you've only got so much energy where you can point and fire. Is like work out which one that is the most important one. So if you're at that nurse, hypothetically, get that side hustle in 3 years, I want to own a property, not I want to change my career and own a property next week. It's not possible. So time, the benefit of time.
Yeah. One of our dear friends, actually, Jane, Jane in Sydney.
Yeah.
I've known Jane for 30 years, and she was a counselor. And so she wasn't getting paid super well. She loves people. She loves helping people. And she went and learned covered calls with share trading years ago, back in the day with Peter Spann.
Yeah.
And then she learned real estate options. And today she has a multi-million-dollar property portfolio in Sydney. And, the prices in Sydney, even back then, would probably be close to, Queensland prices today almost. But she managed to get out of it. So we just want to send some love to all of you listening that feel like there's a lot. Get around people that believe in your capability. Listen to resources like this that can help you grow. And yes, accept it will be hard. All life is suffering, as they say in the Buddhist faith.
One point on that as well. The hard thing is so much love to the listener. And this is what my wife was saying to herself when she was giving birth. And any woman who have had children, you know what it's like. She's like, this is hard, but I am stronger. And it's so true. Like, it is hard, but it's also hard to not have income. It's also hard to not have property. It's also hard to be stressed all the time about finances. And every single listener right now, you are stronger than it is hard. It is 100% a fact. And if you believe that, do it for 2 years, 3 years. It's not forever. You will get ahead if you choose to. But it is a choice.
I think the old saying is pick your hard.
Yeah. I was about to say it, choose your hard.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on from that, let's talk about this next subject that I wanted to bounce off you guys. We might get to the leader thing now. Why don't we jump into that, and then we'll jump into a couple of things. So tell us about this. You learned this strategy over the break, Toni. What is it about? Frame it up for us.
Yeah, so I was thinking about how I could optimize my business and my life to the point where I wasn't so fucking stressed, right? I think we all understand the weight of the world we feel on our shoulders, trying to provide, make money, and get ahead. Very relevant to what we were speaking about. So I was listening to Tai Lopez on YouTube. There's a video, one of his most recent ones, and he talked about how to go from $1 to $10 million net worth. And there are 3 stages you want to go through. The first one is being a leader. The second one is being a reader. And the third one is being a feeder. So a powerful quote that popped out from there is, the world rewards leaders of men. Now, in this case, it can be women, men, people, doesn't matter. The quote is, the world rewards leaders of men. And that first stage is for us to be successful in business and life. We get to learn how to lead other people, whether it's our employees or our loved ones. At work, I get to lead my sales team right now. I've got a sales team that I'm growing, but I also get to go home and lead my wife so she understands when I'll be home and why I'm working so hard. They go hand in hand, right? The second stage is being a reader. So I get to read the people around me. How do you build success in business? You lead people, but you don't lead everyone the same way, right? So yesterday when my employee left work early to support his partner who'd lost her job, I could read that he was stressed and anxious. I could see in his energy that he wasn't feeling great. So I had to change my tonality from get those calls done, boy, right? The sales team mentality, Wolf of Wall Street. I had to read his energy and change it. When I go home and my wife is stressed after no sleep, I get to read that and not treat her like I treat my employees. Make sense?
I thought it was reader of books, but you're talking about reader of people.
Both, obviously. Yeah. But in this case, we're talking about people, right? Reader of books is very important as well. The third one is feeders. So what I did last year, and a lot of business owners can probably relate to this, was I had a team of 13 and I paid everyone money and I expected them to do their shit and to do it well. And then when they didn't, I would judge them and get upset at them for not doing it to my standards. I'm paying you all this money. Why are you not doing this properly? I'm sure you guys can relate. You've talked about popping some bullets into heads. Yeah.
Putting a bullet through it, I think was the comment I made in that property day.
Best thing I've ever heard. So long story short, this year, what I did was I sat down on a Sunday, first 2 Sundays of the year. First Sunday was with my closer, Broden, and we talked about his goals, his vision, his clarity. He's never written his goals down in his life, never set a vision. So we set a vision. We looked at his expenses, his income. We set a very clear target on how he'll purchase his first investment property this year. And then I've been training him again. He's the top closer. He's crushing it, feeding him, training him, giving him time and energy. Did the exact same thing with my setter, Jesse. Sat with him. He'd never done a budget, never done his expenses. We showed him how to get out of financial scarcity. So I'm leading these guys by leading myself. I'm reading them. What mood are they in? What personality type do they have? And then I'm feeding them on a Saturday when I could be with my family. And I'm not doing that in a selfish way. I'm doing it because I want them to win. And if you make people great, they will be loyal to you. So for me this year is, how do I be a leader of men or women? How do I read people and understand them deeply? How do I feed them and nurture them so that I can have a business that makes me a lot of money, but also gives me freedom and I can detach from? And that's the final piece of this, is for the first time in my life, I'm only 33. I've had 7 years of grinding, stress, overwhelm. I used to drink every night to numb myself. I finally feel detached and I'm like, it's all good. December, we lost 50 grand in the business in the red. It's all good. Just make it back. And when you have that level of certainty and confidence, life's so good, right? Like it's abundance, you know?
And so how did you lose 50 grand in the month?
Simple. I didn't prepare. It's all responsibility. I had my setter go away for a month, 5 weeks. So we had no setter. No, for those that listening who don't understand what that is, it's the person who calls new leads. Our closer and I were the only ones there. I took 2 weeks off for my daughter. We just didn't have a sales team. So we were not making money. We were also spending a lot of money and our expenses were high. So I did not prepare.
So
and I went, fuck it.
Spent more than you
And
made.
We spent a lot more than we made.
and I know your business model to a degree. Well, that's that type of business also. And in December, usually from about the first week of December, you might as well start dialing back the leads as well. So you probably had the leads going full noise and no one to pick them up, and people stop making decisions, especially around that Christmas period as well.
Yeah.
So that they probably have a little something to do with it as well.
But of course, you know, you've still got, if the money was spent on leads, they're still in your universe. They may materialize in January, February, or whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to point out a couple of things for the listeners. Just listening to that riff from Toni there, I want you to notice a couple of words that he kept using. I get to. I get to is the sign of somebody who's living his life above the line. And what I mean by that is they are taking responsibility for everything. I don't have to go home and I don't have to lead my business. I don't have to read people. I don't have to feed people. I get to lead. I get to read. I get to feed. That kind of mindset is years of personal growth manifested in just how he rocks up everywhere he goes, which is why, you know, he would be what I would call a powerful person, because you're not removing your power and saying, I'm not where I want to be because of inflation or because of property prices or because of my wife or because I've got shit people working for me.
Yeah.
You take full responsibility for everything in your life, which retains all of that power with you. You have not leased it out, which is phenomenal.
There's a point to that, and this is the final piece to it, is patterns. So Tony Robbins said this in a podcast recently. If you understand patterns, fear disappears.
Yeah.
Right? So everything's a pattern. How to build a business? Pattern. How to invest in real estate? Pattern. How to wipe your ass? Pattern. It's all just steps that happen without thinking, and there are people that have done it. So one of the patterns that served me immensely in my life is understanding language and what I focus on. So you can focus on what you do have or what you don't have. You can focus on the past, the present, or future. You can focus on things that serve you or don't. And your language is so powerful. So you're allowed to have the negative thought. I can't do this. I can't invest in real estate. I have to go to work today. I can't find good staff. But when you have a belief or a piece of language in your head that doesn't serve you or that makes you feel angry or stressed or triggered or upset, just question it and go, when did I decide that I can't have that? And start to really have these conversations with yourself. And at the end of this year, you will be so much further ahead if you understand your language and you understand the patterns that are holding you back.
That podcast actually that you're talking about was with Patrick Bet-David.
Exactly.
And it was just released over the break. Look it up on Valuetainment.
Yep.
Tony Robbins turned up at the studio in his chopper and landed, and then they went in and spoke. And it was really cool watching Pat interview one of his heroes.
Yeah.
You could see the admiration. And first of all, how good's Tony looking for 65 years old? Insane. The guy is looking ridiculously well, which was great. But it was actually a really good podcast.
It was amazing.
And I just, you know, this is just a really salient reminder, everybody, especially in a world where there is a lot of stress right now. In Australia, I get a sense of a real sense of stress and, you know, just the cost of living and housing crisis, all the negative, challenging stuff that's going on. And we're about to go into an election. I think the election will be in the first 4 months of this year. It's going to happen quick. This is throughout my life. Personal growth has saved me, has saved my life, because every day you get up, you can feel like dog shit. And a lot of people now, the January 10, I think something like 80 or 90% of people have already quit their New Year's resolutions by January 10. So that's already passed. It's a head game. And that's why it's so important every single day that you brainwash, right? Wash your brain and get the good stuff in and focus on your language and focus on what you're thinking about. And this book that I read, The Courage to Be Disliked, I got it on audio. Have a listen to that. It's an Adlerian psychological approach to life. And I would highly recommend it for a very unique way of looking at life. And the way the book is structured, it's a discussion between an old philosopher and a young philosophy student. It's written by a Japanese guy. And it's every day the young guy turns up to try and prove the old guy wrong about his life. And Adlerian psychology is a school of psychology that they say takes half of your lifetime to learn, depending on how old you are. So if you start learning it at 20, it will take you 10 years to master it. If you start learning it at 50, it'll take you 25 because you've got more to undo.
I did buy the book, so I should start it yesterday, I suppose, shouldn't I?
Right. It is, get the audio book or whatever. It is a phenomenal book. And at the start, it's a little chewy because you think, oh, is it going to be like this whole time where it says, old man says this, young man says that. But once you get through that sort of difficult, I found it just a little challenging in the way it was recorded. But then once you just click through that, it's like Breaking Bad. People who go through the first season of Breaking Bad tell you it's the best TV show in all time, but 90% of people quit because the first season is so chewy. But anyway, listen to it. The Courage to Be Disliked. It's all about uber accountability for your life. And it's terrific. It's kind of like Untethered Soul, but less spiritual and more practical.
And also, you said the comment about how good does Tony Robbins look for his age and whatnot. There's another book I've got because I've got about 9 books in the file to start going through now. I'm over the people stage of the year. There's the other one is Life Force. Have you read that?
Yes.
Or heard that?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
terrific.
Yeah. I've just sort of started going to the preamble of that at the moment, and that's one I want to dig straight into as well.
Yeah.
And
awesome, Tony. Thank you for that. That was a huge contribution to the pod today. I appreciate it. I wanted to change gears and get your thoughts on the last thing. Like, I wanted to take a left turn here and talk about AI and robotics for a moment. Over the break, Elon was on a pod and he said that artificial intelligence in 2024 has now consumed all of the world's knowledge is in the language model and the learning net, which is amazing when you think about all of the knowledge on planet Earth is in there. So that's one piece of it. And right now we're interacting with AI through software on sort of uni devices like a phone, or we're interacting with it on a web page on a computer. But we are, according to Jensen, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, he said, we are on the precipice, and I mean within months, of robotics changing the world. And he said in no mixed words that Elon's robots are the most advanced. And Elon has said, I believe that our robots will be the most successful product in history of all time, of all type. Like more than computers, more than the iPhone, more than his motor cars, robots. Now, he said he believes every human will have multiple of them. I don't know if I agree with that, especially considering that a lot of the world is very, very poor. But when you start thinking about hardware that, like, I think the hand has 22 actuators or something, which is as many as the human hand, and many people don't have full use of their own hands. So you got these robots that have similar articulation and ability. You can see them doing backflips now. And if you ever look at the stuff that's coming out of, the military, what's the military robotics company that we see?
I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
They've got the dancing dogs and the robots. When your mind starts to think, hang on, we're on a real turning point here. And Elon and Jensen, who's powering the chips in this, is quite interesting to really let your mind wander and think about what are the implications for this across life and business as we go into the next decade. I think about where we were 10 years ago, where we are today, how much the world's changed. Well, imagine how much it'll change when we can effectively double the population of the earth with Android or, robots.
That don't slow down, that don't have excuses, that work 24/7.
That are smarter than us.
Yeah.
Significant. Now, I'm not talking about doomsday ending stuff here for a minute. I'm just talking about business. Like if you're a painter, or you own the painting company, or you own the construction company, and one guy goes out and invests in 10 robots, and let's say they're 30 grand each, like what Elon's saying, that's $300,000 investment, right? Or like I just had a big demolition job done at one of my properties where they had to go in and knock walls out and pile stuff up and put it in. A lot of that stuff probably could have been done by an intelligent robot. No offense to the guys that did the job. They did a great job. But if somebody goes out and invests $300,000 into 10 robots that he just plugs in overnight to charge them up, right? And then he puts his quote in because he's got minimal labor costs. He's got 1 or 2 guys on site just watching the robots do the job. It's not going to be long before all of a sudden he's getting all the work.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the other guys are just not winning work. And for him to get more work, he doesn't have to put a job on Seek. He doesn't have to interview. Like think about the knock-on effects, like recruitment gone, right? Public liability changed. There's probably still liability risk, of course, but you don't have HR risk. They're not going to take you to Fair Work.
You don't have no overtime.
No overtime.
You can work Sunday.
They can work through the night. So, you think, oh no, we got to resist. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. People are going to take the cheapest quote. Everybody says, got to do environmentally friendly until they get the bill kind of thing, right? So have you guys got any thoughts on this?
Yes.
Because I'm starting to really think more deeply about this. And is this the end of capitalism?
No. So this is a very interesting topic, and the best way to understand it is Uber. Do you remember when Uber first came out and you get into a taxi and the taxi drivers would just bitch and moan about Uber? Did that happen to you?
Of course.
You get in there and they're like, you see this Uber thing? Fucking,
Yeah, whilst they stunk.
Yeah.
Still do.
Yeah, exactly. And they'd complain about it. And that went on for years. And then all of a sudden, like there's less and less taxi drivers. And some of the smart taxi drivers just went and started Uber back when no one else was doing it. And they made a shitload of money because they were able to embrace change. There's an amazing book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And they're the 4 like masculine archetypes in humanity. And the magician archetype is the ability to look at technology and advancements and changes and adapt, right? So again, just like the property stuff, there are going to be people who go, I can't get into property. There are going to be people that say, this is bullshit. It's not fair. It's not going to take our jobs. It is going to take our jobs. And we fall into this fucking victim mentality where we look at change from this lens of fear and not understanding it. So what I believe gets to happen is get in front of it now. Start doing what you've said before. Get 100 hours of research in your belt. Start Googling robotics. Start YouTubing AI and ask yourself, how can I implement this into my business? Go on to ChatGPT.
I get that. I get that.
What if you're a 50-year-old plasterer or a 55-year-old plasterer? You probably never, and you don't own a laptop. You probably use this just to look at Facebook and connect with your family. Are they going to be the people that go and spend 100 hours looking at AI, how to get ahead of it? Probably not.
Probably not. No.
And also, I mean, I've dumped into a bunch of Ubers. I remember distinctly when I was in New York, upstate New York in the country, and I got into the Uber and this guy, I love to chat, right? And the guy's like 65, 70 years old. I get in the Uber. Oh, how you doing, buddy? He's like, oh, Adam, nice to meet you. And da-da-da. He didn't know me. He just knew me from the Uber screen, right? And we just get chatting. I said, how long have you been doing the Uber? Because he was an old guy, like he was 70 probably. And he goes, I started this 2 years ago because my daughter convinced me to do it. I'm like, why? My wife passed away, married to her for 50 years. And this re-socialized me. I was borderline depressed. I went in and da-da-da-da. And so I drove, the other day I was in Sydney. I went to the Bitcoin conference, when I say the other day, 3 or 4 months ago into Sydney. This older guy, again, an older dude, like he would be in his late 60s, and he was dropping us off at Bronte on the beachfront there for the barbecue. And he goes, "Can you help me find a park?" I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Whenever I come down here, I've always got my towel and my swimmers in the back. This will be my last run for the day. I'm going to park when I drop you off. I'm going to go for a swim, and then I'm going to go home." I said, "Why do you drive Uber?" He says, "Gives me something to do." So what I'm getting at is that Uber has provided hundreds of thousands of jobs, maybe millions of jobs globally, I'm sure, for people that can just turn on the app. They don't necessarily need the money, but they need the socialization of it, right? And these are not people, like it takes more than just money from people. It takes connection. It takes there's no doubt in my mind that when in California right now, I'm seeing friends who are visiting there all the time. They get in a Waymo, and for those who don't know what a Waymo is an app like Uber. You open Waymo, you say, "I want an Uber." It turns up there's no driver. It's actually on the streets now in California.
Wow.
Now, if you've got
not as much today as it was last week, but sure.
Oh God. She's property market's heating up over there.
Ouch.
Terrible. Too soon.
Yeah.
But if you're a family person, right?
Yeah.
Jokes aside, it is terrible what's happened there in California. But, if you're a parent or a family and you've got the choice of calling an Uber driver or calling a Waymo, what are you going to choose?
On the Waymo, there's more space. You could fit more people in. It depends on the person, though.
There's no pedophile driving it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a plus.
Yeah.
Now, I thought so. But
These are really dark today. I love it.
No, but I'm saying like that's how parents, especially Americans, think. Who the fuck is picking my kid up, right?
Yeah.
And if you can get in a driver and a driverless car that statistically has a lower error rate than a human, because humans are terrible drivers. They're drunk. They come home high. They're just terrible drivers. They're everywhere.
Is that why Eric's not here today?
Yeah, exactly. But my point is, like, these types of changes are sweeping, and I think everybody really, I'm not trying to scare you, but what you're saying is also correct. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
There's the best insurance policy is skills and education. But I think we also socially need to think about where is this heading, because that's going to take, the minute those cars roll out, the minute Elon gets approval for driverless cars, and I'm not saying Elon's evil. I know this is where it's going. It's what's going to happen. Or the minute one of those robots can do something that's manual labor, our labor force is going to be under threat. And it's not just low skill jobs. They're doing brain surgery with this shit.
Yeah.
Right. Not necessarily a Tesla robot. They've got robots controlled remotely, and all of a sudden, one surgeon doesn't need to be there. And
on the flip side of that, you talk about the labor force, degradation. But then you've been listening to a few pods about there's one thing that AI won't be able to do, and that's create or maintain community. And so there's the flip side to that. But I'm not saying it's going to. Again, it's completely different topics around AI. But the labor force piece there. Especially between the mundane, when I say mundane, cleaning, those normal, regular jobs. I think it'd be fairly scared.
Lawyers.
Gone.
Right? Gone. Like, who loves lawyers? Nobody loves lawyers. If you can get better advice or the same advice without paying a lawyer, people are going to do that.
Yeah.
I know this sounds funny, right? I didn't believe it.
This is the setup.
Yeah.
I can see it already. Fucking
true
for
story.
those listeners, if you can see Adam's face.
A mate of mine, I just caught up with him. He's from Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Haven't seen him for a while. Carl, you might know Carl.
Yeah.
So Carl was in town, and I said, "Dude, let's catch up." So I went down to the airport. We went out. He said, "Dude, look at this card I got in China, right? That was given to me." I goes, "What is this?" And he goes, "It is a robot brothel." And I'm like, "What the hell?"
I told you the setup for sure.
It's actually, now I got the card, right? And I said,
"What do you mean you got the card?"
I got the, I
You
photographed.
got the platinum.
You stole it off him right away.
No, I photographed the card and I texted it to my mate Richie, whose wife is Chinese. I'm showing you guys so you can see this. I'm not bullshitting you, right?
Yeah.
Right? This is true.
Wow.
That's the actual card.
Wow.
Do I get one?
I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be real. And he's like, dude,
Education,
they
bro.
actually got a brothel where you go in there, you pick the robot, you go do your thing, they rinse it out. And
At least they rinse
No,
it out.
no,
That's good to
no,
know.
They
Nice and
hopefully
hygienic.
rinse it out.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, anyway, so it just shows you that this is already happening. And I gave it to my mate Richie, whose wife's Chinese. I said, translate that card for me, and I'll play it to you off camera. her literal translation of what's on the card when you scan the QR code, and it's exactly what it's
insane.
Can
And you're right. This
you give us the PG version for the listeners? Or there is not one.
This will displace people, right? And my previous monologue wasn't to say that, you know, you definitely get to learn about it, but there are people that are going to struggle to learn about it. The point is, though, that it is going to happen, right? So we can sit here and talk about how it's going to destroy people and destroy us, or we can figure out ways to come along on the journey. And it is going to socially fuck a lot of people up.
Yeah.
People are already struggling since COVID. People are already struggling with connection. Yeah. So it is something we get to prepare for, and something that we get to be very wary of, because it's already here. A lot of people don't understand that. It's here.
It's here. And I think that,
I was going to say, so obviously I haven't been across that, the pod that you're talking about, or some other information around that. I mean, what's your take on, or what was their take on disruption of workforce?
Whose take, sorry?
So the people, so the overall take based around this topic.
Oh, look, a lot of people are talking about UBI, universal basic income, which is going to be people getting a handout from the government, and then, you know, go and find your joy. And I think that's going to be personally fraught with problems, because people do find meaning in work, and not just in the work they do, but in the people that they go and hang out with and different things. So I think there'll be a huge time of adjustment, and maybe there will be, you know, the rise of philosophers again. You know, like I know that in Silicon Valley that they're hiring philosophers to help AI make decisions. Like, you know, like the Tesla's going down the road. There's a car pulls out here, and if you go left, you're going to kill a woman and her child, and if you go right, you're going to kill an old guy. So these are your choices. So
wow,
do you know the AI? Do you kill that one or that one?
Wow.
And these are actually real discussions happening right now in Silicon Valley. How do we make these moral decisions, and then where does the liability lie? So if, you know, you kill the family over on the left, who's liable for the death if Waymo's driving? Yeah. Is it Elon? Is it Tesla?
Or is it the person that pulled out?
Well, yeah, but there'll be a scenario where there's not a person involved, or there's another Waymo or whatever. So there's just this really whole new world. So I think what I would be saying to people is, if you can develop I think a spiritual practice is kind of going to become important, because if you have no spiritual it's going to force you to try to find meaning in life and try to find purpose and develop your connections with your friends and family, or, you know, sometimes they're very different. Yeah, maybe not with your family or just your friends, but develop those social networks and nurture into them, and also be really, you know, proactive about learning and staying at the forefront of this, so you can position yourself and your loved ones in the best possible position when these changes start to occur, because they are definitely coming. And Australians, I'm concerned about, because we're some of the most comfortable people in the world, and comfort leads, you know, what does it say? Hard times make great people, great times make weak people, something like that. And Australia's becoming weak and soft. Like, just one quick story before we finish. I looked for a consultant to help us in an area of a business currently run with an agency. And I've said, I want to take that skill in-house. I don't want to have an agency run this for me. So I put a job up on Upwork saying, I will pay $1,000 a month for 3 months for 2 hours a month. So two hours a month, I'll give you $1,000 a month for 3 months. And generally speaking, the people who have that expertise run agencies. So I filtered Upwork to just Australians, because I thought, I'm going to try and get the job here. I'm overpaying no matter where I go. I'm paying $500 an hour, right? And this is US dollars, right? Because I know how hard it is to get somebody who runs an agency to come and do this. So I thought, okay, $500 an hour, that should do it. Research Australians. Decline, knock back, decline. Not interested. Just not interested at all in $500 an hour for coaching. They said, unless you're going to sign a 6 to 12 month contract with me, I'm not interested in helping you. And then I expanded my search outside of Australia, filled in at second.
Yep.
No problem at all. How can we help? That's the difference. And I'm like, if you've done a little bit of a cursory research and thought, oh, this is a guy that has a podcast, who's been in business his whole life, maybe I can get some other work. I'm getting paid really, really well to get exposed to that person in their network who might have 10 people that need an agency. It's not how Aussies think, because we're so comfortable. Yeah. So I just sort of, I don't know, my thought is develop a spiritual practice, invest in your networks. And Aussies do suck at investing in their reaching out and saying, come over for dinner, terrible at it.
We went to our neighbor's place last night. I actually was terrible at it too, because I fall into that trap of just work, make money, go to bed, right? So we took her, she was 14 days old yesterday. We took her and my 3.5-year-old over to our neighbor's house. We knocked on their door, which we never do. And we're like, hey, can we come in? They're like, sure. And we sat outside and we talked for about half an hour, and the lady held the baby, and it was just so pleasant. I was like, you don't do this anymore,
It's a lost art, man.
Yeah. And in terms of the meaning and the spirituality piece, that's really powerful, because I think a lot of Australians lack that. America's a very spiritual country, right? On different, sides of the table. So there's a really powerful book that I would recommend called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl.
Yeah.
Don't want to spoil it, but basically this guy went from losing everything, truly everything, and realizing he could get through. And I think a lot of people are going to lose a lot of things in the future. And then secondly, if you are in an industry right now that may be disrupted by AI, use AI. Go into ChatGPT right now and type in, I do this for a living. I have this business. I am a lawyer. I'm a Barrett, whatever. Is my job going to be displaced by AI? And what can I do about it? And start preparing yourself. And
Peter Thiel gave up one profession that will never be disrupted by AI.
Yeah.
If you're politically incorrect, right-wing comedian, you're safe.
Yeah. You'll never go out of work. Very true. Which is terrifying.
To that point, there's a good mate of mine. He's the general manager of a large pine products company. You met him at Bitcoin conference, and we went to the State of Origin chairman's lunch, whatever it was last year, and they're doing extremely well. And the directors went last year to the States to one of the state-of-the-art timber mills to see exactly how AI is how they're using AI to disrupt their timber production plant. Obviously, you got machinery and whatnot. And yes, so again, to that point, they're getting in front ahead of the curve in something you'd think, how the fuck can AI help with pallets? Well, clearly it is. And they're investing a lot of money on that. I mean, the pallet still needs to get used. No one's going to disrupt a pallet. It needs to get product, food, whatever it might be, and get put in the truck. But how did that pallet get built, and the efficiency of their plant, because they're building a huge plant, I won't say where because it's confidential, on the coast here. And so they're tooling up as much as they possibly can with AI.
It is
in such a boring business, building fucking pallets.
It is a seminal moment in human history, and I think we've got an absolute front row seat to it.
Yeah.
But guys, I honestly think you need to be paying very, very close attention to what's unfolding here and spending time as a family or with a small network of entrepreneurs and playing out these thought experiments of where this is heading, where the opportunities are going to be, because there's huge change coming. And I honestly think it's going to come really, really quickly. There's a saying in the Bitcoin community, first slowly, then all at once. And this is kind of what happens with these things. And I think we're going to see some fireworks.
And not only to mention that, I mean, the huge amount of pressure that's going to put on social and social welfare and what is going to be fucking, the unemployment line is going to be like in the Great Depression.
We've got this enormous intelligence that is already created now. And how long did that take? 2 years, 3 years? Remember when we first started?
I said you check this out. No, that's only 2 years ago.
I remember saying the first time that I typed into ChatGPT a question and the text came up with an answer that was intelligent.
Yeah.
And I'm being blown away. It reminded me of the first time I sent an email. Now, I'm showing my age here a bit, but I remember, you would remember, the first time you logged in, you had the
I remember that sound.
Right? And the AOL and all of that. I remember that. that chat GPT thing was exactly the same moment.
Yeah.
But that was only 2 years ago. And look at what's happened in that ecosystem in that time.
Yeah. Like, so I know with the early bird, they're setting us up right now. And I had a full conversation with the prospect and it was amazing. And it's the version 1.
And it's only going to get better and better and better.
I know it's a base sort of conversation, but I use the Chat GPT app on my phone more than I use the Google app now. It is now the main app in the menu bar. Why would you go to Google? I mean, you go through there, gives you all the answers, then the links to the resources it got from Google, just like cuts out 10 minutes of bullshit.
And
that's a very, 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 very basic use of GPT. But yeah,
it is remarkable. But what's happening now is we've got these physical entities in physical space that can actually count. I saw a video of a guy sitting there with a assault rifle on a swivel, and he sat right in front of it, said, ChatGPT, fire off 5 rounds every 2 degrees, skip between this one, and then change the angle between degrees 27 and 32, which is where he was standing, and then change the range of angle by X. No problem. And I said, thank you, have a nice day at the end.
Unbelievable.
And then I'm thinking, if that's in the real world, like, think about that. Just go and mow some people down. Thank you, have a nice day, glad I could help. Yeah, like it was fucking, we are on I watched the Lioness show, with Taylor Sheridan's new show.
Yep.
With Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
Phenomenal TV show. If you have not gotten onto that yet.
Just started it.
It's epic.
On Paramount.
Lioness, Paramount, or you can access it through Amazon. He's got Landman out at the moment, which is one of the best TV shows I've seen in ages. It's a ripper. But Lioness, in one episode, they show the drones when they get into a firefight, gunfight, and these drones just swoop down on them and just boom, like blow up, and you think and you see it and you're like, oh my God.
I was only watching a YouTube interview of Elon. Don't quote me. It was a very recent one. It was the short of it, and they were talking about the advent of AI, and it was the use for evil, if you will. And it was talking about drone warfare and what it's going to look like. And
it's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where was that?
It's on YouTube. I'll flick you a link afterwards. But I'll like halfway through.
Put in Elon drone warfare or something.
Yeah, it was one of his. It said Elon leaves host speechless, I think was the headline. We could probably throw it up and post anyway. But he just goes through about AI and people. And he said there's room for a third player in there. You've got Google DeepMind, you've got Microsoft / ChatGPT, and then he's got ours. He has ours. Literally, people don't quite understand the AI that we've got. If you were to ask ChatGPT or Microsoft to go and build the AI that Tesla's got, and vice versa, he said we would kill them and they'd have no chance.
Yes.
And they got
so far ahead.
Got into a deeper discussion about the use for good and the use for bad when it comes to AI, and he talked about drone warfare on the battlefield with robots, this, that, whatever. And as I said, I'm only about halfway through it, but it was just like, holy fuck.
It's being used in Russia right now. The Ukrainian side are landing drones, exploding drones on $2 million Russian tanks. So the drones cost a couple of $100 and they're taking out $2 million piece of military hardware like that. Unbelievable. For a couple of $100, killing the people inside and blowing up the military asset. And
that's the scary side of AI and replacing a workforce or replacing a military.
Well, that's right. Because, and it's also, I've read the Bitcoin Standard again over the break. And one of the reasons I love Bitcoin is because when I watch these TV shows and I watch military might, especially the American military might on full display, what you are looking at is a country that can print its own money to pay for whatever it wants. And nobody else has that privilege in the world in terms of no other currency is accepted as widely as the US government. So when you see that, these scenes of America comes in and saves the day and expresses their military might through force and violence, that's sponsored by a fiat system that is not tethered to anything. That's their ability to go and say, how much are the guns? There you go, just like push a computer key. Yeah. The rest of the world can't do that. And that's why people in the Bitcoin community say Bitcoin is anti-war money. Bitcoin is anti-violence because you can't just print it. You actually have to fucking earn it. And Americans haven't had to fucking earn it for a long time. They can just fucking print their way to whatever they want. And it's a very, very unfair advantage, and it expresses itself in some horrible ways sometimes as well, which is why I'm also pro at a spiritual level. I've become so pro what Bitcoin, the values behind what Bitcoin is about. So anyway, not to rant on about Bitcoin. That's the end of the pod today, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Very wide-ranging discussion today.
Certainly was.
Interesting.
Good to be back.
Good to be back,
guys.
Tony, thanks for being here at short notice and contributing so much value as you always do. Appreciate it. James, good to be back, buddy. And let's get on with 2025.
100%.
All right. See you soon, guys. Bye for now.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.